Good afternoon. I'm Sabrina Purvis, and along with Senthil Kumar and Akbar Thawani, we represent Hops and Dreams Beverage Consulting. We're here today to discuss key metrics in craft beer production. Specifically, we want to look at your competition. We're going to talk about location. We're going to look at the alcohol by volume. We're going to talk about international bitterness units. And from that, we'd like to discuss your next steps. First, our team evaluated your brewery competition. Colorado, followed by California, Michigan, Oregon, and Texas, are home to some of the highest concentrations of breweries. Alternatively, the Dakotas, DC, and West Virginia all simply have one each. The dataset we were provided originally had 2,410 beers. We were given 551 breweries across 51 states, which includes DC. We had to do a little bit of data inspection to clean up the information. First, the team recognized that there was duplicate information. Identically named beers with only one beer ID variation were included in the original dataset. The team removed any instance where the beer ID was the only related observation. We then discovered that some beers were existing in multiple ounce designations. Because we knew we were going to be evaluating ABV and IBU and their correlation between the two, we removed any beer listed more than once to try to remove that bias in the dataset. Finally, we had missing information. We had 1,005 missing IBU values along with 62 missing ABV values. When we got to the point where we were analyzing the correlation between the two, we removed those as well. Our final dataset consisted of 1,341 beers. The first thing we wanted to understand was the trend of alcohol by volume. We did an analysis showing the median alcohol by volume across the United States. You'll notice that it's fairly consistent from 5% to 6.3% unless you are in Utah or in New Jersey. Next, we looked at the trend of the international bitterness units. That data is much more disparate. The median value ranges from 20 to just under 60 across the United States. When evaluating the median ABV and IBU, we also looked at where the maximum and minimum values existed. The maximum ABV beer is called the Lee Hill Series Volume 5. It's a Belgian-style quadruple ale from Colorado at 12.8% alcohol by volume. The beer with the lowest ABV was actually out of California at just 0.1%. The state with the maximum IBU, which is the most bitter beer, was Oregon. It's a beer called the Bitter Bitch Imperial Ale at 138 IBU. And again, in California, the minimum IBU beer exists there. Next, we evaluated some statistics specifically around alcohol by volume. As you can see in the chart, beer is a fairly predictable beverage from this standpoint. 75% of the beers evaluated have a 5% ABV or higher, and there's almost no difference between the median and the mean ABV. This information helps to validate that ABV is a dependable measure when using to complete further analysis. Because alcohol by volume and international bitterness units are both influential factors in taste and popularity of any given beer, we investigated whether or not they were also influential to each other. As shown in the graphic, there is certainly correlation between the alcoholic content of a beer and its IBU score. To explain this further, for every 10 points that a beer increases on the IBU scale, alcohol by volume also increases by 0.34%. Because we have confirmed that ABV and IBU are interrelated, we next evaluated if the style of beer was also influenced by this correlation. Initially, we only compared the ales. We looked at IPA versus everything else that was also an ale. But then we also pulled in the non-ale beers to validate our assumptions. If you look at our classification, style definitely plays. If you're an IPA, IPAs are strongly predictable based on ABV and IBU and can be accurately predicted at 90% and 86% respectively. They're what we'd call a distinct type of beer. From this analysis, we further confirmed that there is correlation between the bitterness and alcoholic content of a beer. We can assume that there are other factors that are not accounted for in this case study that may be influencing this. It'd be interesting to know what other components are involved in the brewery process and if those data can be brought in to see if this changes the relationship. Also, further study could be made by filling in the missing ABV and IBU data to see what influence that might produce in this relationship. We know that part of running a successful business is expansion into new markets. As you can see in the map, Budweiser currently manages 12 breweries across the United States. What our team identified is that the Northwest United States is an area of untapped potential. We've presented a few key items that drive our recommendation. Washington is the most populous state in this area, and as you know, you need a wide consumer network to sell beer. Oregon would be a secondary option, but they have the most breweries in this region already, with less of a population to draw from. Because of this, we recommend consideration of Washington as your next location for a brewery. As we've discussed at length, the alcohol by volume and IBU are interrelated and important factors in beer consumption. To be successful in Washington, you need to consider that the beer you present mimics the taste of Washington. Stella Artois, an Anheuser-Busch brew you already have, reports a 5.2% ABV with an IBU of 37, making it a great flagship brew to consider in this new-to-you market. Thank you very much for your time. We at Hops and Dreams look forward to the next opportunity to help you propel your business forward.